Alright, I really hope that our dear older sister is not actually gonna come to sit on our bedsill, because if she is, I wouldn't actually be surprised if her MC actually smacks her across the face just to make sure that she's not dreaming. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video of mine. This time I'm back with And the Haze Will Take Us, Season 1, Episode 9. Y'all, I was completely shocked with how last episode ended. Not actually our sister saying, I am not done on this earthly plane, like the gods do not need me just yet, I am not done, like I'm seeking my vengeance. And she actually broke out of where she got buried. We just saw a creepy ass hand and I'm not ready. Like, imagine if she's like just mummified in front of us, like, goddamn, don't be doing all of this. But we will see. All the dead are gone from the hut cemetery. It's time for the real rituals. The heck? All of them? They all woke up? They said without mercy, without fear. Episode 9, save us, almighty Perrin. Fuck no. Warning, this episode contains graphic description of animal sacrifice. Alright. Y'all, imagine, like, you bury your best friend and then all of a sudden she's in front of you. No, fuck no. High Priestess. Chips and flask of wood covered the grass, which was still wet after the rain. The planks once used to board up the doors now lay at the foot of the huts. Y'all, actually every single one that got buried all of a sudden came back to life. God damn, like, imagine actually finding that. The houses groaned and creaked in the restless wind. The villagers were silent, frozen with fear, staring wild-eyed at the empty huts. The high priestess climbed the stairs quite deftly for her age and entered one of the houses of the dead. Her hands trembled as she went up, but she entered the darkness decisively without a hint of fear. God damn. They were scratching the walls like some wild beasts. God damn. The shadows enveloped her body, luring her into the thickening gloom. Their embrace was cold and sticky. The priestess turned back, but the light blinded her. She squeezed her eyes shut and turned away. The stale, musty air smelled of rotten wood. There was no bed, no windows, just an empty casket. The priestess kneeled down and, almost blind, stretched out her hand, groping for the side of the casket. Gradually one of her eyes adjusted to the darkness, and she managed to make out the shape of the room. Her other eye couldn't see as well, or maybe it didn't see anything at all. She was surrounded by pitch darkness. The priestess got up, flattened herself against the wall, fighting the growing weakness. There were crooked, deep scratch marks on every wall. The dead don't belong here, sister. Why are you so stubborn? Is her sister with the gods? I mean, yes, she did, but was her sister in the hut that she's in right now? She was answered by silence, but that silence scared the priestess. She swallowed nervously. Her veins stood out against the saging skin of her thin neck. Goddamn. No, honestly, I would be freaking the fuck out. Me. Ozar helped his grandmother down. It was the first time Simona had seen the priestess so worried. Why did you go in there? After all, it's my sister. It was my sister. It was her sister's grave. Goddamn. So I was right. Simona clutched the fabric of her dress. A storm was raging inside her. I'm sorry, but the former outfit was so cute. A fairy tale? A plane. Honestly, the bunny is so cute, but you know what? Fairy tale. I like the top. Oh my god. Oh my god, how cute. That's cute too. Let's go with this one. I think it's so cute that we have red hair. It's all my fault. The priestess looked from her grandson to Simona and said in a weak, breathless voice, The will of Sagas has turned full circle. You have nothing to do with it. But her words didn't comfort the young priestess. I disobeyed my parents and looked in the mirror, chaining Veryia spirit to life. And now Veryia is taking revenge on me for rejecting her. Ozar placed his hand on her so that she would stop fiddling with her dress.
That's not how it works.
Ah, woe upon us! The dead have risen! They will step into our homes, into our hearts!
This can't be good.
As if awakening from a dream, everyone started shouting at once. Simona's mother, pale and trembling, looked at Veryia's empty hut clinging to her husband's arm. I would be done with life. It seemed that she would never know the joy of peace. From now on, she would look out the window, waiting for the silhouette of her deceased daughter. There were marks trailing from each hut. The feet of the dead had imprinted on the wet ground. No, oh god, y'all, I didn't even look at that. God damn. Some footprints led into the fog, others to the village. Y'all, the dead was willing to go into the haze. Simona followed her sister's footprints with her eyes. They led into the fog, straight to her. Honestly, it would be hilarious if I said into the fog. Honestly, let's be messy, let's be dramatic. Into the fog, into the darkness she goes. Into the darkness. Is Haze dangerous for those who are already dead? Y'all? Simona caught Tata's scared look. God damn. Oh god. Simona didn't come over to Tata, even though she wanted to. Tata wasn't even in the last episode, if I remember. They were both scared by what had happened and needed time to process it, but looking at Tata's red hair, Simona felt a surge of relief and hope. Simona returned to her parents, and finding herself in their strong, desperate embrace, closed her eyes for a moment. The village's alarmed voices rattled on. The elder was barely visible among the heads surrounding him. Everyone demanded protection and answers. The priestess whispered something to Ozar, and he addressed the crowd. Y'all, it's over if the dead come out now from the graves.
Go away. There's nothing you can do. Go home.
The elder supported Ozar, leaning wearily on his cane.
Yeah, the magus. Don't spread fear. Pray to the gods instead. We'll figure it out.
Right. When you don't even know how the fuck they got out of it.
How are you? Can you walk?
Yes, I can do it. Gradually, one by one, everyone went about their day. No matter how scared they were, the dead wouldn't milk the cows, plow the fields, or get water. Damn. Simona's mother walked slowly, dragging her feet. Her haggard face was lifeless. Halfway home, Simona's father stopped and turned to his daughter.
Dragan wasn't there. He's probably been foraging since dawn. Go to him, let him make you an amulet.
All right. Her father ruffled her hair and took her mother home. In the past, she would have turned up her nose, shrugged her shoulders, and tried to refuse. But Simona admitted to herself that she was scared. She really could use some protection. Simona clenched and unclenched her fists, gathering her thoughts, and walked slowly to the Dragan's forge. What does he look like? Even from afar, she could hear the powerful clang of a hammer hitting metal. There were hot flashes of fire. Honestly, I have respect for those that were capable to do this in the medieval times. That was such hard work. Upon entering, Simona saw several blacksmiths covered in soot. Finally, blacksmiths. In their worn leather aprons, they looked like bears. Their faces were stern, wrinkled from so much strain. The hammer winced through the air, striking the anvil, and each blow created a new shape from the formless pile of metal. I can't. Y'all, I actually was thinking this. I didn't want to admit that. Honestly, I didn't immediately think like this. But considering the fact it's hot in a place like this, I was like, please don't tell me that he's actually forging a weapon shirtless. He's not really shirtless, but he's wearing nothing under the apron. Oh, that's hilarious.
What are you doing here?
Dragan wiped the sweat from his brow. His chest was heaving from the hard work. How did he even recognize us? We just got here. I wanted to ask if you could make me an amulet.
Come with me.
He led her to an anvil. Without taking his eyes off the tools, he asked,
Were you there? Did you see everything?
Yes.
Is our hut empty?
They're all empty, Dragan. All of them. He pursed his lips.
I see.
What's wrong? He aimlessly rearranged his tools, looking thoughtfully. I'm sorry, but in my eyes, he looks guilty to me. Like, every single time they're talking about Veryia, he keeps on making those strange faces and strange comments. He's like, I see. Well, that's a shame.
It's quite hot in here. You can wait outside.
After some thought, he added,
or you can stay here and watch.
Oh, I'll watch you. I'll watch your fine ass from behind. Like, I may not be capable to touch just yet, but I can sure as hell look. I'll enjoy the view. Can I?
Of course.
I'll enjoy the view. It's fine. You do you. I'll just watch your fine ass. Like, maybe a bit of your muscles under that fucking fine ass apron. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. Like, the hotness will be nothing in comparison to the hotness between my legs, okay? It's fine. It's fine. You do you. Simona looked at the blacksmith's tools, several tongs, a whetstone, and many other things she didn't know the names for.
I'll make you a black and silver amulet. Thus, I need to engrave the pattern using a bronze plate.
DRAGAN got to work explaining every step of the process to her. That's so cute! Simona stood meekly next to him, silently watching what the blacksmith was doing. I'm sorry, can't we, just sit down somewhere? But I mean, of course, we shouldn't sit somewhere without actually, we don't know if there are some, dangerous tools lying around. I get it. His hands knew the language that metal obeyed, forcing it to bend under the blows. DRAGAN knew when to be rough and when to be careful. Let's hope that he can actually portray that image well in the bedroom. He knows how to use his hands. He knows when to be rough, when to be careful. Then he better know how to take care of me too. He knew when the metal needed strength and when it should be handled delicately. The dialogue, y'all. It just keeps on forming well into my dirty thoughts. His hands could do... Ignore me. But now that I think about it, I already ruined all of you, so who cares? Her fingers could hold the weight of the hammer, or they could run gently, weightlessly over the cooling mold, checking all the imperfections. The forge was never silent. The voices of the hard workers echoed the rhythmic blows of the hammers.
It's the first time you've brought a woman here.
Oh, really? Simona turned to the blacksmith and smiled awkwardly. He shuddered and recoiled. Even in the semi-darkness of the room, Simona could see the horror that twisted his face, barely illuminated by the fire of the forge. I mean, we are staying here, and perhaps every single time someone came to visit him here, he always told them, to stay outside. So we're, the first woman that is allowed to stay by his side while he's doing his work, so it would be obvious.
Veryia?
That's the worst thing you could have said. The worst thing you could have said. She's already having problems with actually always being the replacement in DRAGAN's eyes. You did not need to do that. DRAGAN stepped in front of her, holding out his hand as if protecting her, and said irritably,
This is Simona, a sister. My mistake. You gave me a fright for a moment.
His shoulders relaxed in relief, but his voice remained tense. We were often mistaken for each other in the dark.
You're getting old, veteran. You can't trust your eyes. They look nothing alike.
Was this your way of saying that you are always capable to distinguish me from her? DRAGAN resumed his work. He kept his head down, seemingly tormented by heavy thoughts.
Forgive me, I'm stupid.
But you are very good looking, son. You're forgiven. Don't worry.
You should come here more often. Being around these fools all day long is just in this damn heat. I feel like I'm really going to kick the bucket soon. At least with you to chat with, there will be some respite from the full mouth of these guys.
Sonny boy, then you would not like me, because several other blacksmiths replied, swearing at him. DRAGAN smiled without stopping his work, and Veteran burst out laughing. His ringing cackle mingled with the heavy breathing of the other men. Outside the forge, the world remained cold and quiet, but an ancient fire was burning inside. Dragan swung again, and the hammer came down, obeying his power. Simona looked at him from under lowered lids. He said, Veryia and I don't look alike, but he confused us once. I think he said that on purpose. Simona was sitting on the porch, sighing from time to time, annoyed with herself. She was left all alone except for Hannah, while Veryia and her parents enjoyed the festivities. Simona didn't want to go, but when she felt a pang of loneliness, she succumbed to the ghostly pain of loss. She was young, but she shunned for fun and revelry, and people too. Maybe that was why, after sitting in her room for hours, her hands had reached for the chest with various things. Her sisters loved beautiful dresses, but Simona never wore anything but her shepherd's dress. There was no one home. No one would notice her little mischief. Simona had put on a dress and, almost tripping over her skirt, had hurried downstairs. She didn't recognize herself in the mirror. She ran out on the porch and remained sitting on the steps, unable to find the strength to return and take off the disguise. Simona didn't know why she'd done it and didn't want to discover the answer. She was staring at the stars, fiddling thoughtfully with the fabric of the dress. Suddenly there were footsteps in the distance. My parents are back. Simona jumped up and was about to hurry back inside when she met Dragan's gaze. He noticed her from afar and stopped. It wasn't clear from his look whether he wanted to run away or come closer, but the momentary confusion passed. Instead of leaving, he approached her. Dragan stopped at the porch. Simona was standing on the high steps, and now they were at the same height. Dragan's cheeks were flushed from the mead he drank, but his eyes were unusually alert. He was drunk. You can't take it seriously. He was drunk.
Veryia?
In the darkness of the night, he didn't recognize her face. He confused her with her sister. Why are you here? She didn't bother to correct his error, but she didn't dare lie either. Dragan took a step forward, but swayed, betraying his drunkenness. He was drunk, like, come on.
You.
Me? He climbed the steps and cupped her flushed face in his cool hands. Holding her breath, Simona looked into his eyes.
I've wanted to do this for so long.
Of course she would think he has feelings for her. Of course. But she actually wasn't capable to connect the dots. We didn't correct him. But he didn't say again, Veryia. He said you. That was when he knows. That's when he figured out that it was us. Dragan leaned over to her. His lips were so close that she could feel their heat. She grabbed his wrist and let it happen. Why the fuck would I push him away? Am I dumb? Simona didn't move, just closed her eyes. Dragan's lips moved closer to hers, hesitating for a moment. The faint warmth of his breath mingled with the sweet scent of honey. But then, met with no resistance, they pressed against hers in a soft, wet kiss. He kissed her gently, slowly, as if he was afraid to shatter their fragile connection. But behind that lightness there was a burning desire breaking through his heavy ragged breathing and hot hands. But you know, it's the fact that he is drunk AF, and the thing that he thought about was coming here to confess his love. Simona didn't return the kiss, thinking she had no right. That kiss wasn't meant for her. Yes, it was. Sadly, it was, but she wasn't capable to connect the dots. But honestly, if you're extremely insecure of yourself, that would be happening to you. You would be like, nah, he first confused me with my sister, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe that he recognized it's me. Not her. You can't get the kiss with Dragan out of your head.
Is everything alright?
Simona shook her head. Dragan was looking at her face with unusual confusion. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. It's just me. It's my sorry ass. What had reflected in her eyes while she'd been remembering. I didn't know that. What was he doing? I wasn't looking. It's so complicated.
Just like any craft.
Dragan covered the amulet with a powder made of silver, copper, sulfur, and lead. Then he fired it. The pattern stood out in a light line, somewhat uneven due to the trembling in his hands while making it. Dragan had put his sole effort and tenderness into the amulet. Simona felt painfully grateful. He really went all out. Dragan handed her the amulet.
Here you go.
Can I take you home? Just because? Oh my god. They both look beautiful. I'm gonna go with this. You can choose another pendant. No, I'm gonna go with this one. Simona put on the amulet and ran her fingers over the thread hanging loosely around her neck. Thank you. She felt almost empty when she thought of her relationship with Dragan. Calm but occasionally uneasy. There was so much going on around that there was no room for hatred. Dragan nodded, adjusting his apron, pointing with his thumb somewhere over his shoulder, said,
I have to go now. I have a lot of work to do.
Thanks again. Simona waved goodbye to the blacksmith and left their lair blazing with Veryia sultry breath. Veryia is the god of the spring sun. Ah. You can watch, but you can't touch. You could have touched, but you refused last night. The blacksmith from early slapped Dragan on the shop. Period. Like, be careful not to open your mouth too much, you know?
Very often, Gemir. You didn't stare after her like that.
Period. You let him know. You let him fucking know. God damn, it's so sad that she's not actually capable to put it together. She is so insecure of herself that she's not realizing that when people actually stare at her, that it's because they actually feel comfortable around her because they like her. She feels that when people stare at her that they have a problem with her or that they hate her. Like she doesn't actually believe that someone is capable to feel positive when she's around. Like that someone has positive feelings towards her. She feels that insecure of herself. Like when someone looks at her for such a long time, she feels extremely insecure of herself. As if she did something wrong, even when someone else was the one actually saying, yes, please stay here. Not that they actually like find her attractive or something. Thank you, blacksmith, for pointing it out for him. Everyone's seeing it. And I analyzed it too. Veryia often came there and maybe even watched him. But he didn't stare at her like that. Dragan brushed off his hand, right, a lie to us.
Quit fooling around. You're better off using your hammer than your tongue.
Son, stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself and stop lying to me. He walked past the laughing blacksmith. Everyone knows. What are you trying to hide, bitch? Everyone knows. Simona stopped just short of the porch. She noticed the footprints leading straight to her house. All roads lead here. She ran into the house. The muddy footprints continued inside, paving a path deeper into the room. How painful and scary it must have been for my mother to see this. With a thumping heart, Simona ran, following the tracks that led her to Hannah's room. Veryia, what are you doing? Why are you tormenting her too? Honestly, you're so fucking stubborn. You won't leave us until you get what you want. Simona knocked, but as always, there was no answer. Then she quietly opened the door and entered. The room was cast in deep, airy darkness. It enveloped everything like a blanket, spreading out in a dense, throbbing mist. Glimpses of light penetrated through the dim window, illuminating Hannah's silhouette. She stood at the window like a shadow that had escaped from another world and found a body. Her eyes were empty and yet worried, and that worry suddenly turned into a fit of despair. Her body jerked and she hit her head on the open shutters. It made a dull sound, loud in the silence, which filled the room with a strange, ominous echo. Hannah! Simona hurried over to her sister, jumping over the dried mud trail left by Veryia's dead body. She grabbed Hannah by the shoulders and hugged her, forcing her to give up her attempts to hit the window. What's the matter with you? Hannah stared unblinkingly out the window, and her distorted, barely discernible reflection stared back at her. Simona shifted her gaze from the glass to what was on the other side. No one. Only a faint, low fog. Can you see anything? Is Veryia there? Simona leaned her shoulder wearily against the wall. Since when did I become so afraid of seeing my sister? But it's not even a spirit who's wandering. There's a dead person walking around her house with flesh and blood. Are they as mad as Koshis? Or does the haze make them that way? Hannah didn't take her eyes off the window, frowning and smiling from time to time. Almost everyone is locked up behind their doors for fear of seeing the dead. Still, it's sad when those who don't belong here anymore cling to life and refuse to leave. They want to be a part of this world, not realizing that their life is history. Her eyes fell on Hannah's back. A muddy handprint was clearly outlined on the snow-white fabric. Hannah, let's go, clean you up. Her sister moaned and shook her head, but Simona was damned. Shut the fuck up and clean yourself. Simona diligently rubbed Hannah's back, arms, and legs. Hannah didn't resist. Simona stubbornly insisted on talking to her, knowing full well that it was pointless. Please tell me what happened. You know something. I can tell. Help me. Hannah remained persistently silent. Simona kneeled in front of her and lathered her feet, mixing ash with water to wash off the dirt. But Hannah's silence weighed on her, and Simona lowered her arms and head, thinking of what lay ahead. I don't know what to do. I feel uneasy. Suddenly, Hannah gently touched the back of Simona's head. Simona raised her head and met a wry but gentle smile. She couldn't help but smile back. Simona put a dress on Hannah and started braiding her hair. They didn't heat the bathhouse much, and when Simona opened the window, the warmth quickly left the steam room. I know you miss Veryia too. It feels as if she's here with us. She won't leave us. You shouldn't be afraid of her. Hannah chewed her lips in silence. Simona sighed. Nothing changes and nothing will change, right? You will remain silent and I will keep looking for Veryia, stubbornly searching for her silhouette, guiding me, illuminating and dispelling the darkness. And Veryia will keep reminding us of herself. The drums came crashing out of nowhere. Mighty powerful blows came one after another. The heck? They pierced her temples with a red-hot poker and squeezed her heart with icy, merciless fingers. It was as if the gods had woken up and their huge feet were walking on the ground, making the earth tremble. Hannah started looking around, moaning, looking for something to grab hold of. Simona gently clasped her arm. Don't be afraid. The elder is calling Evish. Evish is a village assembly. Oh, okay. It's all because the dead have risen. They really are desperate. It's about time. Honestly, did something else happen? It's concerning. Let's go. Simona took her sister outside. Vlas was beating the tympanum, slowly walking through the village. Another step, another drumbeat. The rhythm was relentless and monotonous, like the passage of time, like the waves lapping against the shore. Vlas' hands hit the stretched leather with short, strong movements. His fingers were red, but the pain made Vlas seem even more determined. The high priestess walked beside him, humming a mournful melody in a low, mumbling voice. It sounded more like a loud whisper than singing. The melody slithered over the ground like a snake, making its way into the cracks, ears, and hearts. As they passed by the houses, shutters opened and the villagers looked out. God damn, now the angry mob is coming together. As if possessed by a vision, they drifted out of their hiding places and followed the drums. The riot, y'all. The sounds awakened their deepest fears and memories. An eerie silence descended over the village, broken only by those noises, the alarm bell, the drum beats, and the otherworldly chant. More and more people joined, but each step was harder than the previous one, as if their feet were stuck in a thick resin of unknown horrors. Simona left her sister at home and met her parents on the doorstep when they came out to join the others. The sky was overcast and thunder was rumbling in the distance, another bad omen. The villagers didn't hide their fear. They tried to outshout each other's despairs. But the elder struck to the ground menacingly with his cane. His old voice trembled, unable to stand the strain as he screamed.
Silence!
The drum stopped, and so did the high priestess.
It's a time of troubles. The dead who should rest in board-up huts have risen and roaming our lands. Their voices, their footprints on the doorsteps of houses.
Simona grimaced in pain. Her mother was squeezing her hand so hard that she saw stars! Her father was pale and looked like a winter morning when the sky was stripped of all colors.
This is a bad omen, a sign that we have angered the gods. But why? What did we do wrong? You're scared, I know. I saw it with my own eyes over there by the river. It's Lantern's mother, who's been dead for 2 years. She stood as if she were alive, only her eyes were dead, frozen.
The elder's gaze remained calm and full of wisdom, but reflected the horror that filled the village.
What should we do, elder? Should we plant a new oak tree? An oak tree has already died. Face it, it no longer protects us.
They planted a new one. What happened to it?
It hasn't grown up yet, and it won't. What if Mylan angered the gods? He is a murderer.
No, he's not. I'm pretty sure that the gods are mad because they killed him without actually having proof that he's the murderer. Simona looked away from her father. Until then, he hadn't spoken about Mylan. He had been silent, as if it didn't concern him. He'd grieved his dead daughter in silence. Simona had no idea he'd been filled with rage. Of course he is, but there are people that just don't show it. Again, Malbonte. He didn't show it. She herself sometimes looked into the fog and imagined Mylan wandering through it, suffering from feelings of guilt and shame. Something wicked inside her, dark and rotten, was quiet down, satisfied. But another part of her, the one that still didn't believe her friend had anything to do with it, suffered with him.
Quiet, listen to me. We've already been against the Haze, but not against each other. Let it stay that way. Remember that we are the children of the gods, and we haven't made decent sacrifices for a long time.
Dozens of anxious glances turned to the priestess.
Perhaps the gods have grown so weak that only a human sacrifice will satisfy them. The doors opened for a reason. The souls either got out on their own or something worse took them away. We must act firmly and decisively.
The blacksmith, who hadn't had time to take off his apron after work, burst out of the crowd. His jaw clenched either from anger or hysterical hope. Oh, the cute one.
My ancestors sleep under the sky, and I won't allow them to turn into kashkes. If blood is the only thing that can purge this cursed land, I will personally spill it.
Nope.
It's not for you to decide whose blood will be spilled, and it's not for you to spill.
Ozar's voice was calm and quiet, but everyone fell silent as soon as the magus spoke.
There have been enough deaths. Do we need to be in that big of a hurry? Aren't you afraid, Elder, that if this doesn't help, nothing else will?
A new wave of indignation and fear rippled through the crowd. Dragan, who'd been quiet up to now, spoke, supporting his father, who'd lost the remnants of his resolve.
Will you stop it?
His voice was quiet, just like the magus, but by no means calm. He was seething with rage that had been suppressed for too long and become terrifying. There was still some indolence of rebellion in him. Simona knew that Dragan didn't want to rule and guide people like the elder, but sometimes he helped, knowing that it would please his father.
We can give the gods a river of blood, and there will be more power in it than in one person.
The elder squeezed his shoulder gratefully.
My son is right. Priests, the villagers are asking you to perform a ritual. Let everyone bring an animal or sprinkle their blood on the bones of the gods, the empty huts and sacred grove. It should be enough to rein in the evil spirits.
The elder's order calmed the others, but Simona had a feeling that it was a temporary solution. Dragan and his father were trying to delay the inevitable. Simona turned to her mother. We saw the vision that Oza actually showed us. Like the village will burn. You don't look well. Come on. But her mother didn't move. She squeezed her husband's hand so hard her wrist trembled. Then she looked at the fog with hatred. Her daughter's killer was wandering somewhere out there. She probably went after him.
Why is this happening to us?
Simona whispered to her father. Have you seen the footprints? Her father only cast a hunted, tired look at her and pulled his wife along.
Come on, Sophia.
Every time Simona's mother thought that she could move on, the gods inflicted new trials upon her. How long would her frayed nurse last? That's the question, isn't it? How long can the grief of a mother last that lost her daughter? It's ancient long. I'm giving you the answer. Because I know how my mother behaves towards me, thinking that I'm in trouble. Simona's mother was sitting on the bench pressing a damp cloth to her forehead. I feel bad for her. She was sighing heavily. Her lips were red and swollen from the heat and unshed tears.
I'll choose the sheep will sacrifice to the gods.
What should I say? But why me? It won't help. Honestly, it won't. Honestly, though, but why me? Why do I have to choose it?
I'll stay with your mother. Now off you go.
Simona nodded, clenching her fists. Her kind, dear sheep. One of them was going to die, and Simona had to choose which one. It's been a while since we've been on the sheep herd, right? A light breeze stirred the grass as Simona crossed the green meadows, heading for the flock of sheep. She decided to let them out to graze for the last time before one of them had to die. When they scattered a little, lazily plucking the grass, Simona sat down under a tree. Her eyes moved slowly from one sheep to another. The burden of having to choose weighed down on her. Of course, there had been times when her father had slaughtered sheep, but those animals had already lived their full lives. Besides, Simona hadn't been there to witness it. Now she had to choose a young and healthy one. After all, they needed to give the best they had to the gods. Simona went to the center of the field. Several sheep came up to her, rubbing against her legs. They all know her. They all love her. She pet them, running her fingers through their curly coats. I shouldn't have given them names.
Yeah, it is too kind and fragile. It will be easy to break.
Simona jumped at the voice and turned around quickly. OZAR froze behind her. There was a mysterious gleam in his eyes and a faint, encouraging smile played on his lips. Y'all, can I tell you that I was hoping that someone would show up? Because in a moment like this, no one wants to be alone. And especially if you are seething with rage, you want to just see someone that is willing to stick by you through the worst of it all. And when you actually are insanely enraged, yes, of course you want them to disappear. But that's just because the pain they inflicted on you is extremely high. But 5 minutes later, you want them to be back because you want them to show you that this fight didn't mean that you two are done for. You still have a place in that person's heart. And a lot of people think that the second you say you are enraged with them and you're please leave, they never ever show up. You have to do the first step. But no, you just want to see that the person you fought with cares enough about you to try to seek a conversation before you do. Talk to him. Honestly, you speak as if you intend to do it.
Are you ready to give your heart and find out?
Maybe. His voice was gentle and flowed like honey. There was no bitterness in it. Simona pursed her lips and turned away. OZAR caught up with her, looked at the scrutining sheep for a moment, then turned to her with sincere compassion.
Your heart is determined.
Yes.
It doesn't want to get used to cruelty.
You call it cruelty, but you don't think of it as such.
That's right, but right now we're not talking about your feelings. Not mine.
I appreciate someone like that, honestly. I appreciate OZAR. Never thought I'd say this. He always appeared creepy to me. The way that he was being portrayed. But honestly, I appreciate what this man just said. He's like, yes, I don't. But we're not talking about me. We're talking about you. Aren't we? You didn't ask how I felt. You wanted to find some inner peace. And I'm here to give you the answers that you need in order to do exactly that, in order to find that. OZAR's presence eased Simona's anxiety and confusion, but added to her other worries. Why are you here?
To help you. Do you trust me?
She held out his hand, but Simona just looked at it. The Magus grinned and dropped his hand.
You don't trust me.
Why are you doing this?
Doing what?
Talking and looking at me like that. Because he cares?
Why did you come here to help me?
Oza didn't reply.
He doesn't know why.
Oh, he knows why. He just can't really say it out loud. It would kind of, lose his bitch-ass attitude, wouldn't it?
Choose the one you love most. If you can do this, you won't cry over the death of animals anymore.
I don't know which one I love most. I love them all.
It doesn't work that way.
As I looked around the flock once more,
I can find the one that stirs your heart the most. Do you want me to?
How can you if I don't know myself? Again, we do know. We do know. We just don't want to admit it to ourselves. That's the thing. Like, we humans, we aren't complicated. Feelings aren't complicated. We humans are. We make something out of emotions when there is no fucking business being a problem in the first place. Like, we humans make such a huge ass deal about something that isn't even a problem yet. We create the problem ourselves. Like, to be put an example in here. I know I like a guy. I know it. Yet somehow I can't seem to find ways to actually express my feelings to him. So I just start to get on their nerves. They feel bad about themselves because they like us too. But in comparison to me, they actually show that they care about us. And they see us / me not treating them the same way as me not caring about them or their feelings. So that creates unnecessary drama and problems. We humans make the problems. Emotions aren't a problem. And I get where she's coming from, where she's like, I don't know which one I love most. But to a specific degree, there is someone that will always hold a special place in your heart. And that's exactly what you need to follow. The one that makes you feel special. And yes, I know we're talking about sheep, but it's the same thing. Like, there's always that one person / that one animal that will come to you. And that's the person that you like the most. You can't do anything about that. The Magus just smiled. Simona anticipated that, but also feared it. What if he had chose a sheep and Simona realized that it was the one? What I quite don't understand is why he wants us to sacrifice the one that we love the most to the point that it would lead to us not crying over a loved one anymore. It's fucked up. Oza went over to the flock. His footsteps made no sound, like those of a true hunter. Feeling his confidence, the sheep looked at him with interest. The Magus slipped and dove between them as if dancing and finally stopped beside one of them. Simona's heart sank and missed a beat, only to start beating harder than before. Oza turned to it, running his fingers through the sheep's wool as Simona always did.
Look, this one's special.
What did I say? Special? Why did you choose that one? Simona realized she'd given herself away. Her throat seemed to close, and her voice came out dry and lifeless. Oza in turn realized he'd guessed right.
It's calm like you. The quietest one, but its eyes betray its character.
What kind of character does it have? The corners of the Magus' mouth turned up. Once again, Simona's treasurer's heart started beating faster than it should have. Path of determination.
It's gentle but selfish.
Huh? Is this what you're saying a human being is when they are confident in their own skin? Gentle but selfish?
It gets angry when things don't go its way. It can also bite, only it doesn't know. Or it's holding back.
Bye. And he will test out that theory later on, I'm telling you. Simona looked silently at Oza, and Oza looked at her. Something had changed between them. Something elusive and fragile had appeared. A subtle bond that forms between people who spend time together. It was neither friendship, nor romance, nor infatuation. But from now on, they weren't strangers passing by without a glance. From now on, Simona wasn't a nobody to the Magus, some woman from the village. and he, having lost part of his divinity, became something more than the object of the gods' love to her. Now she saw him as a human being, not a sacred tool of the priests. You're getting more and more used to Oza. I appreciated this. I do. Because that also means that he's capable to read between the lines, and that's a very rare personality trait to have. Not every human being is capable to do that. A lot of people just prefer to remain in their Delulu fantasy world, where they believe that everything they see is what is actually going on in a human being, and that's not how things go. Humans are complicated.
Will you come closer?
Oza held out his open hand again, and that time Simona responded to the gesture. She walked over to him and let him take her hand. The mag stood behind her and led her to the sheep. Like a puppeteer, he ran Simona's fingers through its wool. He whispered,
Understanding and mercy are what's important. What you're doing serves a higher purpose.
Simona closed her eyes. I know. The enchanting melody of the mag's voice soothed her, making her thoughts disappear and her mind drift off into sleep. She wanted to trust him, even though another part of her screamed in protest.
I can do it for you. Would you like me to?
I'll take the sheep myself. I won't sacrifice a sheep to the gods. Honestly, at this point, I don't think we have a choice. I think that one stick is reality. And the other thing is the haze? I don't remember. Let's go with I'll take the sheep myself. Let's be a strong bitch about it.
Alright.
Simona didn't call other sheep. As much as it hurt, she decided to take the one that wouldn't leave her side. Simona kneeled down and tied a rope around the sheep's neck. She brought the rest back to the pen. Simona's heart was heavy, but she didn't cry and didn't hesitate. There was no other way. Reality. Oza didn't interfere, but she could feel his silent support. He is the moral support that we need right now. I love this. Simona's mother went to bed, and her father stayed with his wife. He was barely holding on. Simona had to go to the sacred grove by herself. Nice parents. Sorry, I really am. In my eyes, you don't have just one daughter anymore. And even though it pains you, like, your other daughter needs you too. Like, do you want to lose both of them? Oza was with her, and his presence calmed her down a little, but it wasn't enough. Simona felt as if she were all alone in that field, the field where a flock of crows kept swooping down at her from the sky. No one would help her defend her land. No one would protect the lost souls. The sheep followed her obediently. My child, Simona tried not to think about what would happen to the poor animal. By late afternoon, the villagers gathered in the grove, their agitation palpable. Their eyes were burning with hope as they prepared to make sacrifices to appease the gods and give them strength. The last of the crowd staggered through the thick, dark smoke of the fires that had been lit in the grove. The air smelled of tar and trampled herbs. Huge tall oaks used to grow there, the sacred trees of Perun, the thunder god. As in the shrine, people brought live roosters, pieces of bread and meat as offerings to the gods. Those oaks had once been green in both summer and winter, but everything had changed. Once it was forbidden not only to cut down trees in the sacred grove, but also to chop dead wood and windfall for firewood. Everything had to rot inside the grove. Now those trees were long dead, and during a particularly cold winter, several dried up husks of trees had to be cut down. Scarves, ribbons, pieces of canvas, and even half-rotted towels were still swinging on the branches of some oaks. Simona picked up a piece of cloth from the ground. Someone's prayer for the gods to cure their son was written on it. Had those who had encroached on the sacred grove out of desperation died? Had Perun punished them for cutting down a couple of long dead trees? Simona's mother used to tell her daughters a legend back when they were little. Once upon a time there was a huge ancient oak tree in a clearing. If anyone dared to chop it with an axe, misfortune would befall them. When it was cut down by order of the elder, it crushed all those who'd been cutting it down, and after that a storm with thunder and lightning raged for a whole week, causing many troubles. Why is that, Mother? Because you can't trade your past like that. It must be respected and protected. But what's past is past.
What's wrong with cutting down an oak tree so that many other trees can grow in its place? Don't say that. Don't invite trouble.
When she right.
You brought the sheep.
The high priestess' voice roused Simona from her distant, vague memories. The priestess looked as if she'd expected Simona to come empty-handed. Well, isn't that why Oza came to me, to make sure I wouldn't?
They're here for now.
We are the path of the Haze, bitches. So, of course, she wouldn't expect us to bring anything. So that was actually a choice. Damn. Now I want to go back. Oza nodded to Simona and followed the priestess to prepare for the ritual. It began in the grove. He would soon move to the shrines, the empty huts, and the bones of the gods. But the villagers wouldn't be allowed to go further than the shrines. The bones of the gods and the empty huts would fill with blood only in presence of the priests. The old trees with knobs, hollows, roots poking out of the ground, and split trunks waited motionless for the soil to absorb the blood. Anxious villagers lined up to speak to the elder. He talked to everyone, and he had a kind of word for each. DRAGAN stood next to his father, but stayed out of the conversation. It was mostly young women who addressed him, and he answered the question with restraint, with only the occasional smile. Are we gonna see what DRAGAN's father looks like? SIRIN was nowhere to be seen. She mustn't have wanted the already frightened villagers to once again blame her for all the misfortunes. Honestly, can we blame her? Tata was spinning around Las, whom she hated so much she had to dance to the music emerging from under his hands. The priestess soon returned.
It's time.
Simona donned her cloak. She hoped she wouldn't have to participate. But she was a priestess, and it was part of her job. The crowd quieted down and parted. The priests, dressed in long robes, marched forward, leading the animals. Simona stole a glance at the bull's skull hiding VOLOT's face. She found comfort in his presence. The magus quietly whispered ancient spells. The animals, which had been noisy and restless, suddenly calmed down. The high priestess stopped, raised her hands to the sky, and closing her eyes began repeating after Oza. Then she turned to the young priestess and held out her hand. VOLOT wanted to make that choice, but the priestess shook her head strictly. Simona had to do it. The sad face. Simona approached a group of animals who were going to be slaughtered. Oh, we have to slaughter them all? Just us? She glanced at them and chose a calf. She took it to the priestess. Each step took Simona mentally further away from that place. Damn. The sound became quieter, more muffled. It was like an echo that sounded and disappeared into the void. Simona closed her eyes and opened them when she realized that someone was calling her. Who? Oh my god.
Wake up.
I'm here. Simona didn't notice how they came to the shrine to continue the ritual. Had the animal screamed while being killed? Had she flinched when its blood had splattered on the ground? Simona can't remember. She had to bring a new animal. Simona shut off the world around her and woke up only when the pig's blood, warm and scarlet, hissed down the stone altar and streamed down to the foot of the idols. The crowd returned to the grove, but the priests went on. Sacrifice after sacrifice, it seemed to drag on endlessly. Rivulets of blood ran all the way to the gods as the scarlet blanket became wider and thicker. Simona was plunging deeper and deeper into the darkness. She couldn't make out any voices and couldn't see anything but a thin, pallid film that blinded her. Or maybe they were tears. No, she didn't have any left. Oh, you always have tears left, bitch. Don't be coming at me like that. Like you always say that I have no fucking tears left. Yes, you do. Because if you don't have any tears left, then that means that you are completely numb. And a human being can never, ever, ever be completely numb. I'm telling you now. As long as you're alive, you will never, ever be numb. It will maybe be a moment where your emotions are that powerfully, as in negative emotions, are that powerful, dawning down on you, that you feel the need to actually completely shove them all away from you so that you can actually breathe in for once. And that's when you have the feeling that you don't feel anything, but you will never ever be numb. The priest raised the knife over the animal so many times that it ceased to scare her. Maybe Simona had killed a couple of animals herself. She couldn't remember, but her hands were sticky with dried blood. So many murders. They left nothing behind but fatigue. Would it help? Was there any point? It will never end. Well, Simona blinked, raising her head. The ritual was still going on, but the sacrifices were over. She returned to the grove with the priest to complete the ceremony with the rest of the villagers by singing and dancing. Simona took off her cloak that reeked of blood and removed all the decorations from her hair. She felt a little better.
You did well.
Simona slowly turned her head to the priest standing next to her. Volot was looking at the blazing fire. Oza also looked at Volot. It wasn't clear from his expression what he was thinking, but Simona thought she'd better not reply to the priest for fear of bringing the magus' wrath upon him. Why? Let him. Then Oza spoke, addressing the young priestess.
Someone has to get blood on their hands so that other people won't have to do it.
Vlas continued hitting the drum tirelessly. The beats became more and more alarming, threatening. Soon Tata walked to the fire, dressed in light clothes adorned with silver decorations. Alright. Simona knew that all eyes would be on Tata. If I leave, no one will notice. Why is this me? But she didn't want to miss Tata's dance. Tata was skilled at what she did. No one could move their body better. You know what? Stay and watch. Stay and watch. Shock me, girl. Simona stayed overcoming fatigue and was soon rewarded. Tata started dancing around the fire's dancing flames. Its dark orange tentacles, the color of burnt clay, repeated Tata's movements but couldn't keep up with her. Her movements were smooth and fluid, yet there was power and passion in them. Her rage was uncontrollable, or perhaps foreign to the flames, which were in constant harmony. Tata was spinning and twisting without glancing at her feet, already familiar with every hole and bump on the ground. Nice! Her eyes reflected the flames and her own inner fire. Her arms rose to the sky like the wings of a bird, cutting the air to the beat of the drum. The priests and the magus harmonized with the rhythm of the drum, and Simona joined in their song. Almighty Perun, God of lightning and thunder, hear our voice at this hour. We, your faithful servants, pray for protection from evil. Let your lightning light up the darkness and drive away the evil spirits. May your power protect us from adversity and troubles. May your sword protect our families and our loved ones. Almighty Parent, save us from evil forces and help us overcome our trials. Stand by our side as we fight against the darkness, O great defender. Their songs rose to the stars, driven by the wind. Their voices intertwined with the music, ringing like bells. Together with Vlas' heavy blows, they awakened ancient forces. Tata kept dancing around the fire, her feet tapped down, leaving the ground dented in her wake. Sparks from the fire shot up to the sky and slowly fell like stars, vanishing before their eyes. Simona caught her eye and smiled spellbound. Without stopping her dance, Tata gave the young priestess a warm, almost cheerful smile. For a moment, Simona forgot her worries and believed that everything would change after that night. Even if animals' lives weren't enough, the gods should be satisfied with Tata's dance. There was something wild yet sublime in the way she moved, shaking her head and twisting her body. She was beautiful. It was as if a goddess had come down to them, bestowing a part of her greatness upon them. There was a rumble in the clouds. A clap of thunder shook the sky and the earth. People weren't the only ones trembling. Nature itself was shaking. Perun had answered their prayers and sacrifices. Thunder boomed along with the drums. Each flash of lightning lit up the naked trees. The forest also shuddered from that power. Tata was tired, but she was still full of energy. She continued to dance, screaming and laughing to the rumble of the sky. Everyone felt relieved. Their efforts weren't in vain, but neither Simona nor Oza nor the priests felt any relief. Something inaccessible to the others told them that it wasn't signaled the gods' mercy, but a warning. When the dance was over, Tata ran up to Simona and stopped next to her, hugged her. Hug me, why not? Her embrace almost knocked the young priestess off her feet. Simona clasped her hands on Tata's slender waist and hugged her as hard as she could. She was silent with delight, counting the seconds. Again, I don't understand why a hug is always supposed to be something romantic, like I can hug my best friend. Tata's closeness went to her head, her her heaving chest. It was all so familiar, so pleasant. Simona was too stunned, too exhausted to explain the reason for such bliss. Did you see me dance? You were beautiful. Tata shyly brushed her curls off her shoulders. Tata's cheeks flushed, but it was hardly noticeable in the firelight. Tata asked quietly, as if hoping that Simona wouldn't hear her. Did you like it? Did you like my dance? Aww. Cutie! Simona was surprised by the quiver in her voice. She wanted to take Tata's hand, but she restrained herself. Tata was like a fox that had accidentally stumbled upon a settlement. One careless step and she would run away. I really liked it. Tata beamed, but immediately pressed her lips together and frowned. She didn't want to show how happy she felt. During the dance, you couldn't take your eyes off each other. Oh, she also was looking at us. Inspired by Perrin's message, the villagers decided to celebrate the elder basket in their gratitude. Everyone tried to pour him more mead, and he smiled in response, bowing his grey head. But there were those who weren't deceived by the ambiguous message. Some weren't drinking from happiness, but trying to drown their fear in mead. Others were afraid to stay alone and just sat among the drinkers, staring blankly into the darkness, as if they were looking for silhouettes of the wandering dead. At first, Simona sat alone. She was twirling a mug of wine thoughtfully in her hands. Flashes of bloody memories tormented her, but her horror gradually subsided, giving way to dull pain. It would pass soon. Simona knew that for sure, and then there would be one more callous priestess. It couldn't be otherwise. The Magus is right. Someone has to get their hands dirty. Tata sat down next to her. How are you? What happened today must have been hard. Simona searched Tata's face to see if she was being sincere. Was she speaking from the heart, or was she just trying to be nice again? Tata really did look upset. I can handle it. It's time I got used to it. I can't blame the gods for needing blood. Did she really believe what she was saying? No, she wasn't. Simona didn't know, but that didn't make her words any less truthful. It was a reality she'd refused to accept before. She's been in denial. The priests approached the women. Tata noticed that and got up. Come to me. Come around any time, all right? I love her. She's cute. When VOLOT, the old priest, and the priestess sat down next to her, Simona could barely contain her surprise. She was one of them now, but she hadn't yet gotten used to it. It all felt like a dream. The priestess laughed silently. She could sense the feelings that raged within Simona. I'm sorry I didn't warn you. I didn't prepare you for that. But I wanted to make sure I made the right choice. And you have no idea how important this ritual was. Not for them, for you. She laughed hoarsely again, but Simona didn't like that laugh. It seems I should pay attention to the things that the priestess leaves unspoken rather than what she actually says. Still, this ritual was too cruel. Honestly, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. Like, it is cruel, yes, but reality is cruel, ladies and gentlemen. We gotta take the notes. I said I was ready to become a priestess, and I proved it. Proved it to myself above all. VOLOT didn't take off the skull. He sat there motionless, his huge hands on the table, blood still under his nails. Wash your hands. Men kept stealing quick glances at him, while women stared more boldly but averted their eyes as soon as the priests moved. He was silent, and his silence was frightening. Simona remembered his voice, recalled his features, and the fear wore off. The elder joined them, accompanied by Oza. He put his cane next to the bench and, clasping his hands over the table, stared at the priestess. It's strange, though. Isn't DRAGAN supposed to be here? Why isn't he trying to approach us? All his friendliness disappeared, only steadfastness remained. So, my answer hasn't changed. The priestess' voice grew hard and cold. She never talked like that to young women. Sometimes I forget who she is. I forget to be afraid of her. Perhaps everything will turn out all right. Parents supported us. I don't believe it. What does the Magus have to say? Ozar took a sip from his mug and smiled, but that smile was no less menacing than the priest's voice. Honestly, this is so fucking funny. They're like, bitch, you're actually trying me. If I want you to know something, then I would tell you. The whisper of the god is so quiet.
Do you really think Baron would have the strength to send thunderstorms, Zelda? If it's not Baron, then what is it?
Life.
Sometimes thunderstorms are just thunderstorms.
But someone's creating them. The magus turned to look at her. He smiled again, this time affectionately, without any hidden thread.
There may be echoes of the gods' former greatness, like flashes of memory.
The elder ran a hand over his face. His wrinkled hands seemed weak.
Behold, it's already hard and scary for the villagers. Do you want another death?
We don't want to sacrifice anything, but we could lose everything. The priestess bowed her head.
But the elder's word is law. If he says it's too early for that, so be it.
The elder turned a little pale. He didn't like the priestess' insinuations, nor did he like the fact that all the blame would rest on his shoulders. But he didn't want to torment the already exhausted people. He remembered what scars remained whenever it came to that. The elder stood up.
We'll make mistakes.
Let's pray that we're wrong this time, elder. What is the story here? The elder left. The table grew quiet. Simona thought about what she'd heard. Oza and the priestess wanted to kill a man. They believed that only human blood could give the gods enough strength and keep the fog away. Simona had no sympathy for people. Now that's a lie. Was against it. Hoped it wouldn't come to that. Was already grieving for the people. Honestly, at this point, like I feel if I say it like this, you all believe that I'm in for killing. I'm not, and I said it multiple times that I'm not in for killing at all. In my eyes, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Like, it's the decision of a human being, whether they wanted to live or to die. Of course, I would do anything to preserve life, but if there's no way out, then if there is someone that actually wants or is willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good, then fine by me. But I wouldn't be happy, but on the other side, I have this view in head. There are people being killed and every single day people die. So death is inevitable. It's like a part of life. So I had no sympathy for people. That's a lie, but I'm against it. That's not who I am. It's been a long time since people were sacrificed in the village. The priestess was talking to the old priest. She called him Bore. Simona realized that she hadn't heard his name before. Volot and Oza hadn't said a word since the elder left. Oh my god! Don't talk to anyone. Are we fucking serious? The silence is oppressive. Can we talk to all of them? First I want to talk to Volot. Because he's silent as fuck. Simona leaned over the table to be a little closer to the priest and said in a quieter voice, SIRIN hasn't joined us tonight. Volot's fingers twitched, but it was the only sign of outward emotion that he showed.
She usually misses such nights.
He didn't have to explain the real reason. Simona already knew that the villagers would have harassed her out of fear. Simona was thinking about the witch's fate when Volot suddenly continued their conversation. The skull added an otherworldly, airy echo, but for some reason Simona was sure that if it hadn't been for the mask, his voice would have been soft.
Before going to bed, drink some calming brew.
Simona looked at him in surprise. Volot's hands reached for the skull to take it off and look openly at her, but then he suddenly stopped. He'd forgotten himself. Why don't you show your face to strangers? She felt the priest's attentive eyes looking at her from the black pits of the skull's eyes.
I showed it to you.
The short phrase stung like a slap, ringing in her ears. I'm still a stranger to him. Why don't you take it off now? Simona took a quick glance at the women who were watching them. They looked at her with interest and apprehension. It was obvious from their faces. They were wondering what Simona could be talking about with the mysterious and dangerous priest.
I don't talk to anyone. They better stay away from me.
Simona tried to remember the times when they didn't yet know each other. He'd scared her, menacing and aloof, crossing the village, then to disappear into the fox embrace. Simona used to watch him from the field. A couple of times it seemed to her that the priest had noticed her staring at him. Then she'd quickly hidden behind a tree, defend by her frightened heartbeat. And now It didn't just seem to Simona. She knew she had Volot's full attention. But she wouldn't run or hide. She wanted him to take off the skull and look at her. You would like to stop being a stranger to Volot. I mean, are we still a stranger to this bitch? Are we serious after everything we've been through? But her fear of him hadn't entirely faded. It was as if Volot were carved from stone. Neither lightning nor a hammer could shatter him, yet he could crush and crumble anyone who got close to him. I'm sorry, but this doesn't make sense. Why would you hug someone that you're afraid of? And there was his gaze, sometimes sharp as the tip of a sword, other times calm as still water. Simona didn't want to expect from him. Simona didn't know what to expect from him. They looked at each other for too long, or maybe it just seemed that way. Ozar finished his wine and slammed his mug on the table. Then he got up from his seat and said, looking at the priest with a predatory smile,
Wild creatures should stay in the forest, and they know it. No matter how hard you try to tame a wolf, there might come a day when it loses control and devours its owner. Do you agree, priest?
Are you shading him again?
Do you sleep well, or do you still have nightmares?
Volot's finger slowly balled into a fist. That's a yes.
Is the Magus worried about me?
He's trying to make him look stupid in front of us. That's interesting. Ozar poured himself more wine, but seemed to change his mind and pushed the mug towards the priest.
Rest while you can, Volot. Soon we won't have time for this.
The silence is oppressive. What did I say? What did I fucking say? We can talk to all of them. Let's go. Talk to Ozar. Give me Ozar. Simona cast a few glances at the Magus. When their eyes met, he smiled at her and poured her some wine.
Don't worry, you'll forget it all soon.
Lelia and Sora whispered, glancing at Ozar, but he ignored them. Again, these two bitches. Again, these two whores. Sorry, we saw them and they are actually cutie pies, but again, what's mine is mine. I remember someone saying in the comment section they're extremely possessive. Babe, me too. Me too. My man is mine. What's mine is mine and you don't touch what's mine. I claim my fucking territory. That's why I expect the man to claim me too. I claim you, you claim me. Once I have you, there's no way out for you. Okay? And I hate when they're all oh, look how hot he is. That's little bitch, it's mine. He's mine. As if on purpose, he didn't take his eyes off the young priestess. When Simona looked at Layla once again, feeling the burn of her envious gaze, he whispered,
Don't look at them.
Looking at them gives them power, bitch. They crave the Magus' attention.
And I crave the attention of another woman.
Do not blush. Do not blush. Don't look at me. He looked her straight in the eye, seriously and without hesitation. Again, I have fucking respect for the straightforward people. It's fucking hot. The confidence. Simona took a sip to hide her embarrassment behind me. Honestly, me. She felt ill at ease in Volot's presence. He didn't say anything, but she could feel how tensely he was listening to her conversation with Ozar. The Magus either didn't notice it or pretended not to notice. He's I don't give a damn. He's supposed to listen.
I acted just like you when I was younger.
Huh?
There are rituals.
He stared thoughtfully as his fingers curled around the mug.
The priestess brought Sienna and me to the sacrifices. Sienna cried and turned away, and I imagined that I was somewhere else. We were very young. Soon we got used to it. I admit I was surprised by your soft hardness. How do you stay so kind at a time like this?
Ozar spoke to her seriously, perhaps for the first time since she'd become a priestess. Did the Magus really want to get to know her? Yes! I don't want to get used to it.
What other choice do we have?
We have to accept that life is some bullshit and that we deserve better. But we don't have to accept it. We have to get used to it, but we don't have to accept it. If that makes sense. We didn't even try to find another way. Ozar looked at her for a long time and smiled.
I think I'm going to have a sleepless night because of you.
Masturbating?
A night spent thinking.
The The dirty thoughts coming out. He will be thinking what else he could get out of us. There was bitterness in his voice. Simona tilted her head as if it would help her to read his mind. She'd never really thought about what was hiding at the bottom of the Magus soul. Simona had been either afraid of him or embarrassed. It was as if she hadn't had the time to think about what kind of person he was. What did he want? Not in the immediate, but in the end, when the path of his life came to a close. What was he afraid of? Not as a messenger of the god, but as a mere mortal. What wouldn't he tolerate, and what was he willing to endure? It looked like he wasn't the only one who was going to be lost in thought at night. Tata! Simona looked around for Tata. She found her at the table with the other women. Tata was basking in attention, laughing loudly and accepting kind words. When Tata noticed that Simona was looking at her, her waxen smile faded. She said something to her friends and hurried to the young priestess. They moved somewhere a little quieter and sat down on the cool grass. Tata was no longer laughing or smiling. Her calm, serious face was turned toward the starry sky. The girls won't leave you alone. They keep asking me to teach them how to dance. What do they priests do? You're one of them now. It was impossible to tell from her voice whether she condemned Simona or didn't care. They say a lot but not enough. It only leaves me with more questions. I'm sorry that you had to participate in all this. Don't feel sorry for me. It's my choice. Simona went quiet. She wanted to touch Tata and feel the warmth of her hand. She was so full of life. Simona wanted to bask in her warmth, but she didn't move. She didn't dare. They sat in silence for a moment. Then there was a whisper. I'm afraid of meeting her. Tata looked at the stars as if she was seeking protection. The ghost of Veryia. She was my friend. She was the only one who was really part of my life. Not just in passing, but for real. Do you understand? Yes. How is she feeling now? Is she as lonely as I am? Do I have the right to complain when Veryia is wandering in the cold and dark? Simona moved closer to Tata and took her hand nonetheless. She squeezed it tightly. Right at that moment she was acting on impulse. She couldn't control herself. Tata. Look at me. Come on, look at me. Tata shifted her gleaming, longing eyes to Simona. What about me? She longed to ask that question. Yes, I'm here too. Am I nothing? Her whole body was begging for mercy, begging to force out those pathetic words despite the shame, pain, and doubts, but she couldn't. Only her eyes showed her question. What about me? I'm with you. You're not alone. Can you save Tata from her loneliness? Oh. Tata's smile was ugly in its insincerity. Simona would gladly wipe it off her face. Simona hated that smile. Me too. Like something else I need to say. Like I hate when people feel the need to pretend that they're alright just in order for other people not to think that they're weak or anything. Like a lot of people like to live in their delirium where everything is beautiful even though they know that life sucks. And in my eyes, why the fuck should I feel bad for being a human with human emotions? I can have a bad day. I can have some bad moments in my life. It doesn't mean that I suck, nor that I'm weak, nor nothing. It just means that I'm human. Humans have emotions. We will show them sooner or later. Why would I feel the need to actually hide the fact that I'm upset or that I'm grieving? Those are my feelings. Do you have to deal with the pressure? Do you have to deal with the trauma that I will have to go through by hiding all of those negative emotions inside of me? Like, shut up. You have no fucking right to say anything to me. You have no idea what it feels like to be me. That unconscious, good-natured expression destroyed all the sprouts of friendship and something more that had grown between them. And they had to start all over. But instead of throwing off her hands, speaking of everything that tormented her, Simona timidly gave up and smiled back. I'll wait. I'll be patient. Tata heard one of the women singing and began to listen. Simona thought that Tata was sitting with her out of politeness and got up. She sings beautifully. Yes, are you leaving already? Yes, you can go back to them. That's what you want. Tata smiled at her again and fitted off to join the others. Simona decided to ignore the pain she felt when Tata left. She went back to the priests, who kept staring silently at their mugs full of meat. This is so fucking sad. Like, all of them. Except for OZAR give off the vibe that they don't want anything from us, that they don't care, that no matter what happened between us, this is just like a momentary thing. Like, the only one that actually uttered that he wants our attention is OZAR. I appreciate this. I am capable to understand why you're all like, OZAR is a good one, because I get it, y'all. Like, never knowing where you are with someone is extremely tiring. Simona was also preoccupied with troubled thoughts. She had a lot to rethink. There was a crash of a shattered jug. It cut through all thoughts, all conversations, all silence. Someone screamed. The high priestess suddenly trembled. Her body began writhing convulsively, and she collapsed to the ground. Oh my god! The villagers rushed to her all at once. Simona also rushed to help, but dozens of hands wouldn't let her get close. The high priestess was muttering something. Her blind eye darted around as if it was following something visible only to her. Oh, grandmother!
Sienna, step aside.
The priestess' thick white hair was spread over the damp ground, and her hands were twisted like knots in a rope. Her head hit the ground, but her parched lips kept muttering. OZAR put some rags around her neck. Her blind eye wandered senselessly. There was something disturbing, terrifying in its ominous whiteness, as if it seemed to foresee a coming evil. God damn, like, like this would be so petrifying to witness. Sienna held the priestess' hand, trying to keep her still.
OZAR!
VOLOT brought a bowl of water and a damp cloth.
Come on, Yaga, drink, don't give up.
OZAR began forcing the water down the priestess' throat. He held her head, peering into her face. Finally, the priestess froze and stopped convulsing. Her body relaxed, her eyes closed. The crowd parted, and Simona managed to get through. She kneeled beside the priestess and gently smoothed away a lock of her hair stuck to her forehead. What's wrong with her?
I don't know.
The priestess opened her eyes, and before Simona could recoil, grabbed her hand. Excuse me. Her wrinkled fingers gripped Simona's wrist with remarkable force. Del? Looking into her eyes, the priestess croaked.
Parents' father will protect you.
What? What? Simona didn't take her hand away, but not because she wasn't afraid. It was as if she saw herself through others' eyes, sitting on the ground surrounded by a crowd. She saw the whole village trapped between the forest and the fog. And she felt a hair on the back of her neck prickle with fear. God damn, what is all of this? Oh my god. Oh my god. All that people. Oh my god! I didn't need to see that. Really, y'all, I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to see that. The fuck was that? So, just so that I'm clear about this. A fire will be raging because of the gods, because they're upset with the bullshit that we be pulling. And they will use the fire in order to circle every single human being in it. Meanwhile, they will unleash all the people that are dead that were called into the haze. They are gonna let them all out. As in, they are all circled in by the fire that gets protected by magic, so it's not extinguishable, so it will keep them trapped. Meanwhile, the people of the dead, the condemned souls, will actually move towards all of them and actually kill them all. Goddamn. Goddamn. That's such an awful sight. No, y'all, this was like The Walking Dead. Goddamn. I did not need to see that face. Oh, traumatized. But yeah, this story is a banger, y'all. It really is. I'm intrigued to know what the finale will be like. I think the fourth season only has 10 episodes. We will see. Hope you enjoyed this video with me. Tell me in the comments below what you think was best, and I will see you in another video. Bye!